Hi, I'm Mike and welcome back to my new YouTube channel, NC Woodworker. And today I'm going to show you how you can make a beautiful and elegant name plaque that I can guarantee you any friend or family member would love to have it presented on their desk. And you know, the best thing about this is that all you need is a piece of paper and 3 pieces of scrap wood. So stay tuned. I'll walk you through this and show you exactly how you can make this name plaque. And thanks for joining me. The wood I've chosen to use on the plaque is a select pine and a cedar. The select pine is really nice because it comes knot free. It's a New Zealand type pine that you can purchase at Lowe's. And the cedar I happen to have here is knot free, except for maybe back here on the back. And it might have a little knot back there, but that's okay because I won't be using that piece of pine. So I just sandwiched these together and I milled these down to a 1/3 of an inch piece. So when I glue this together, it'll be 1 inch thickness. Instead of the standard block font, I decided to go with a font called Brush Script MT. I really like this font because I think it gives it a nice, clean, elegant flow to the script. But if you notice, I have a particular problem when using this font. In the word yawn, with a capital J, the J extends down to the baseline. And when you print out the letters, all the other letters are just above the baseline. I was able to remedy that simply by extending down the tail end of the letters N and the N and the A to the baseline. I'll show you an example of what I did in the previous name plaque I made. The letter Yash also has a J, which would have extended down to the baseline. So I extended down the S and the M and the R and the F and the R. Just keep in mind that the first and last letters of each word have to be touching the baseline. But if you have a name making a plaque with such as be Mike and Marie, you won't have that problem because all the letters will be on the baseline. But just keep in mind, if you like this font and you want to use it for a name plaque, that the letters J, capital J, a little G, P, and Y, you're running the same type of problem. But that's okay because you can remedy the problem just the way I did. So what I need to do now is simply glue these 3 pieces of wood together, spray adhere the name to the wood, and let it dry, and then we'll take it over the scroll saw. I clamped these overnight and still have a little bit of glue spill out on the sides and the edges, so I'm gonna go with a table saw and a miter saw and just clean these up and smooth out the edges. Cleaned up the edges and the sides and sanded down to 320. This is going to be the surface that's going to be exposed, so you want to get this as smooth as possible now. Got the name all situated so I can make a clean cut. And then we can go ahead and proceed to the spray adhesive to the wood. Going to be a little line on there, right there, so we'll go across that line right there. Now, spray adhesive, and we'll spray this on right here, like so. We'll just spray it on the back of the paper here. See, I put little dots on here where I'm going to need to drill some holes to allow the scroll saw blade to enter those enclosed areas of the letters. So we'll let this dry for a few minutes, and then we can proceed over to the drill press and the scroll saw. The name plaque is now ready to be cut out on the scroll saw. I did drill a few starter holes in the plaque. I don't use the scroll saw all that often, so I went back and watched a few YouTube videos just to be able to pick up some ideas and tips on how to best cut out the lettering. And one of the main tips I did learn was that you should always cut out the inner part of the letters first. That's the most fragile part of the name plaque, and if you cut those out first, then when you're cutting out the rest of the letters, there's less chance of any of the letters breaking. Also, I learned that it's best not to start cutting from the edge, so that's why I made some starter holes in the outer part of the lettering, just so I can just start cutting from there. Another tip I picked up was that it's probably best to use painter's tape over the board first and then spray adhere your stencil to that, so that when you peel off the lettering and the tape, there won't be any glue residue left on the letters. I have not done that in the past, and I don't remember a problem with having a sticky residue on the letters, but if we do, I guess we'll just have to do a little bit of sanding. Also noticed that I made some of the letters a little wider where the letters come together. I did that just to strengthen up the letters and make the letters a little bit more rigid and less chance of breakage there also. Also want to let you know what type of blade I'm using today. I'm using a reverse tooth number 7R 11.5 TPI. Okay, let's get started on cutting the nameplate. Okay, overall I think it turned out pretty good. A couple things I would like to do a little different. I did this first time was, I think I would like to start from the Maria end and work my way over to the yawn. The J here is a little fragile, and I kind of cut this in first, and when I was holding on to the piece when I was cutting it, I could feel it, moving a little bit, so it stressed me out a little bit because I didn't want to break that J, and so I had to really be conscious of putting my pressure points at other places along the framing of the letters. And I think the blade did a really good job. I like the blade here. It gave a nice smooth cut from top to bottom. It turned corners really easy and didn't have any resistance hardly at all when I was cutting through the wood. It was very manageable. It didn't like scoot on you or anything. It just you just put a little, just let it ride through the saw blade, and it did a good job. So now I was going to try to get this stencil off. I can see that what they mean. It's going to be a little difficult. So I might have to put some xylene or paint thinner on there and try to remove it that way, and we'll see how it turns out. I got the paper off, and it did take a little bit of xylene though to get it off, and so in the future I will use that painter's tape as a remedy of not having to use a spray adhesive directly on the wood, because it did take a little bit of effort to get it off, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah, in future definitely use the tape. That'll definitely save you some time. But overall it turned out pretty good. Now I'll go over and make the base, and probably put a little stain on here, and we'll see what it looks like. Now I'll make a base for the nameplate. I found some scrap soft maple in the shop, so I decided to go with that. Also, I want to round over the edges of the board. I decided to go with a classical form Ogee router bit. It's a 1/4 inch shank with a 1/2 inch forming. I made a few test runs on this to get the edges just the way I like it, and I raise the router bit just so it's just barely above the level of the router table. And you can see here that when I do that, I have a nice about a 1/4 inch space here with a round over. If you look really close, you can see that there's a nice little lip here that will surround the edges of the base. So I made a few test runs until I got it just right, and you'll probably have to do the same thing. The baseboard is 2 inches wide and 12 inches long. I've lowered the bit to a little bit because I want to make a pass all around the edges of the board, and then raise it up a little bit at a time. This is an aggressive bit, and I want to start it out on the very highest level that to achieve my round over that I would like. So I'm going to just make a pass, raise it up a little bit, make another pass until I get to the point where will be very similar to my test pass here that I made on my scrap piece of wood. So I'll go ahead and turn the router on, and I'll get started. Okay, that last pass seemed to do the job really nice. A nice little lip right here, nice cove, and the base is really nice and straight. Let's see what the name plaque will look like on here, and you can see that that'll turn out real nice too, just like that, just like that. Okay, let me sand this up a little bit, smooth out the edges a little bit, and then we'll proceed to the next step. finished the name plaque, and I think it turned out looking great. A couple things I want to show you about the name plaque is I used a spalted maple wood for the base of the name plaque, and after putting a stain on the plaque, you can just see how that spalted maple just shimmers and shines in the nameplate. And also I want to highlight how when I use the pine and the cedar within the lettering of the name plaque, it just gives a really nice clean look within the name plaque. So in the description below, I'll give you a list of the scroll saw blade and the router bit I used and the name of the stain I used to stain the plaque. So I want to give a shout out to all the dads tonight. Happy Father's Day, and I look forward to seeing you again next week on the next video. Thanks.